Okay, here we are on the very first Hyperfly podcast with jiu-jitsu black belt turned MMA fighter Erin Herle and her cat. She got her. What's your cat's name?
Olive.
Olive. Hey, Olive. So Erin, how's it going?
Good, good. Just finished training today. Trying to get back on it after Thanksgiving. The holidays really, really hard to get through.
Yeah, that always is kind of tough, huh? Like yesterday, we just stuff our faces, and then today you have to go like sweat it all out.
Yeah, like it started raining really hard on Wednesday. My mom's like, "Do you really have to go?" Because I commute really far. Like I commute into Santa Monica from the Valley. So if anyone kind of knows that area, so everyone trying to make it to their turkey plans. Or they're out, and then there was like a freaking torrential downpour and all this stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to train. Then I didn't train yesterday either, and then today I finally got back to it. But yeah, it's been hard to get back.
Now, when you said train today, did you train jiu-jitsu or did you train MMA?
I actually trained kickboxing. So in kickboxing at Dynamics MMA, where I train, they have specific classes. So we'll have like MMA classes, we'll have jiu-jitsu classes, we'll have straight kickboxing. We even have a clinch class and wrestling. And so today was just straight kickboxing. And so during sparring, they allow certain people to do MMA rounds. But then again, it's also hard because we're wearing like the 14 or 16-ounce gloves.
Right.
So we do what we can, if I'm in kickboxing, like I'm gonna do kickboxing. I want to learn my weakness,
Right.
So I don't mind not doing MMA and training sometimes.
Gotcha. So for those of the listeners out there who don't know, you just had your first amateur fight. It
Yeah.
was against Alandria Brown at the MMA event Inc. It was your first amateur fight. What was that like? What was that whole experience like?
That was a long time coming. So it's been a year since I've actually been training. So, I was told early on, like, oh yeah, we can get you a fight. Like, honestly, your jujitsu is gonna take you through pretty good. Like, you're just gonna have to stay safe, move around a lot, but dude, just get the takedown and take them down. And as soon as you get on the ground, like, you've got it. And that like really showed through in a lot of the training that I did. Going against like UFC fighters and stuff and sparring and being like, oh cool, I just choked them out. Like, that was awesome. But I didn't have the opportunity to fight because I couldn't find an opponent. And we asked for amateur for like 125, 135, 145. And these poor matchmakers like had no one for me because they
Wow.
would say, oh, we got this girl. And then I'd say, all right, does she know about me? And then they find out, and then they're like, oh, well, she's a black belt. And honestly, though, amateur is about experience. Amateur,
Right.
there's record. Honestly, if you had a losing record, like 0 and 10, like you would be fine and you could still go pro. I think it's different in boxing. I think you need to have a winning record to go pro. But in MMA, it's still a young sport. And there's a lot of people that unfortunately don't want to go fully through. They just want to put it on their Instagram profile that they're a fighter. Um,
Right.
Here I am just trying to get my feet wet. I'm literally trying to get punched in the face, like, so I know what it feels like. And
Right.
no one wanted to do it. And that's the funny part. Like, here I am, I have like no striking. Well, the training that I have, but compared to my jujitsu of 10 years, dude, I don't have the advantage. I've got to take you to the ground and you can punch me in the face. You can kick me
Yeah.
in the face. And yet no one wanted to do that. I don't know why. So we
Yeah.
didn't
So it's
to go out of the state. This was purely camo in California. Because the thing is, I've heard so many horror stories, and people were so quick to say, if you get an opponent, make sure they show up to weigh-ins. Make sure
mm,
that they show up for the fight after the weigh-ins. I've heard stories, people like, yeah, I went to the cage and my dude went to the parking lot. They just
mm,
leave because there's nothing hanging on it. It's not a professional record. It's literally like, oh, I just do this for fun. Um,
right.
so yeah, maybe the seriousness, like, and the fact that I wanted to go, like, people know that I want to go pro and I want to make a career out of it. They're like, well, I don't want to be, a stepping stone or whatever. Who knows?
Right. It
So
just seems like there's so much more on the line, right? Like you can take physical damage. There's not a lot of money at the amateur level, but you're in this weird place where you need to get experience. You can't go. You need to fight before
yeah,
you go pro, right?
yeah.
So you're like trying your hardest, all these different weight classes, and then so what happened? You finally got a fight a couple weeks ago in November.
So I get this. We have a manager at Dynamics in Crystal, and she's just so great that she handles everything, right? I don't have a manager. A lot of the managers, the professional ones, like they're like, well, can you fight? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, no one will fight me. So, but I think I can. And they're like, well, why don't you go get amateur fights? And I'm like, dude, I'm trying. It's like getting an entry level job. They want you to have experience, yet it's entry level, so you don't have experience. And this is like 22. So I finally get this. Well, the idea was that I was supposed to fight amateur before the year ended. That's what my coach, Anthony Hardonk, wanted for me. And then we would consider going into kickboxing next year. They always go to this tournament in Arizona for kickboxing or like Muay Thai. And so I was going to do that. So I literally was set on not fighting because I'd been told before, oh, there's a card coming up. There's a card coming up. So finally I'm leaving one day and Crystal's like, yo, they have an opponent for you. And I was like, really? Who is she? And they're like, oh, I don't know, but I'll give you more information. So I go on the Camo website. And if they want you to fight, if they're looking for a match for you, you're on the card. You just don't have an opponent next to you. So I look, and I don't have an opponent. But then I look at my old training partner, Landria, and she's got no opponent. And it's set up to 135. And I know that she does 115 or maybe 125, right? So I'm thinking, wait, does she want to fight me? So initially, it was super, super personal, okay? Now, it was personal on like a lot of different levels. Like this should not have anything to do with it. But I'm going to go ahead and just be completely honest. Like we trained, she was my first training partner at Black House. And we've had some incidents, like I was sparring with her and I slid off of her back and I went for an arm bar. And it was kind of like this, you know, and I didn't think I had it, but yet all the coaches were like, tap, tap. She doesn't tap. Finally, she taps. And I let go, and she's like holding her arm. And then she tries to tell me that she went to the ER and got a scan, and she has to have Tommy John surgery because the tendon's ripped off, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, I've never intentionally hurt someone. Like, not even competition, you know? So she kind of was having this like weird vibe with me. Like, I did it on purpose. And I've got other coaches being like, what did you? Like, come on, did you? You know? And I'm like, I promise you, I've never hurt anyone in training before in 10 years of jiu-jitsu. And so it got a little weird. And then I apologized, everything, and then she just got really distant. So I see on Instagram that she's like training again and whatnot. And then I have, the wrestling coach at Black House tell me, she wants to apologize because she had called me. I didn't answer. And then she texted me saying, I'm sorry, I was such a bitch. Like, you wouldn't do that, I know. So, because she's like, yeah, whatever. So she tried to say that I broke her arm. And then obviously I didn't because she was training again. And then everything was sort of fine after that. We started sparring on sparring days again and whatnot. But then, so like I take this fight and I'm like, okay, is it personal? So she's training with this guy, Eddie, he has Lobos Boxing Club now in Hollywood. I had trained with Alandria under him for like a few classes and whatnot here and there. And he's a really great guy. And I'm thinking, why would he tell her to fight me? Like he trains at Cobrinas as well. He knows my jiu-jitsu level and Alandria had no jiu-jitsu, like barely any,
Okay, so what's her background? Is she more of a striker?
Striking, right? So I'm thinking, okay, she thinks she can strike, whatever. But I was taking it personally. So I go in, and Crystal's like, think about it over the weekend. So I go into the training. Oh, that's my dog. So I go in for the training, and I sit there and I go, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Because over the weekend, a mutual friend of ours was like, hey, did you see she's got a new boyfriend? And I was like, who is it? And it's some guy that I had like been kind of dating that I knew about. And so
there's like levels to this fight.
I'm like, does she have like this personal vendetta? And then so you go through all these things, right? So I was really nervous because I'm like, no, she's not gonna get my debut. She's not gonna piggyback off me. You got all these like things. So my training partner Lucas, who also is a coach of mine, he goes, look, I understand. I have anxiety. I take things personal too. But look, you want to fight, okay? You get a fight, so fight. And I was like, you're right. That's it. It's just a fight. That's it. Right. So I didn't reach out to Eddie at all. And during that time, I didn't reach out to her or anything. And I was just like, all right, we're doing it. And this is like 2.5 weeks that I had. So the only condition was I had to get down to 130 at a catch weight. And I was walking around at 138. So I was like, all right. So I trained hard on a Monday. And then I weighed myself that night on Monday. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm 140. Because that's what happens for females. Like we train and then we like have some water and all of a sudden we're heavier than we started. So the next morning I wake up at 135. Then I train hard the next day. The next day I wake up at 133. And I was like, fuck yeah, like this is awesome. I'm making the weight, like let's do it. So I never signed a bout agreement until I got there, but I think she signed something like it's going to be at 130. And she weighed in actually at 128 and I weighed in at 130.3. So, just the lead up to everything is really like hard because it's someone you know. And it's good and it's bad because like, yeah, I know things about her and I know how we've gone sparring, but at the same time, like I don't know, it just seems personal. So the fight actually ended up being standing mostly. I did the whole first round standing,
Hmm.
and I loved it because that's what I wanted. I mean, a lot of people were like, "You're so brave because you could have just like shot in and like ended the fight." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what would that have done for me? The whole point of amateur is to see one if I can handle it and two if I enjoy it." And I
Right.
enjoyed everything. I enjoyed all of it. I loved having my friends there and my training partners and teammates and coaches and like getting my hands wrapped and just like getting my hair done and just feeling
Yeah.
awesome. And then the fight, I had no inhibition. So a lot of times when I'm warming up for jiu-jitsu, I'm like, we like jump up and down, move your hips, like that girl thing that we do, like before we're like getting on the mat.
Yeah. Shake
Yeah.
it a little bit.
Everybody's looking at us, kind of.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
and then I'm like, oh my God, now everybody really is looking at me, at MMA because it's just one fight at a time. It's like a showcase, a spotlight.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? Dude, I went crazy. I just started dancing and I can't dance. Like, I can't dance. But just like, I could not stop, like, just dancing. Like, I had this really ratchet song for my walkout, Slow
Okay.
Money. So I like went out and I was like, hell yeah, I'm feeling it. The guy's like putting the Vaseline on my face and I'm like, and then she comes out because she's from Tennessee, so she's got like this sort of like countryish song. I literally was riding the pony in the cage, waiting for her to get into the cage. Like
All right.
I would never do that. That's weird. But I know I'm weird. But usually I try to like kind of like hide it a little bit, and I
Yeah.
couldn't. You literally can't hide anything when you're in the cage. Like
No.
all of your antics and weird ticks that you do are gonna come out, and
And it's
it's
weird, like when you're in the moment like that, there's no way you can prepare for that moment. You can try as hard as you want, right? But there's nothing like it. And then some weird stuff comes out, and you're like, I don't know where that came
yeah.
from, but hey, this is getting me through this right now.
It's like someone like drugged me with the truth serum or something, but it was like in my actions, and I was just like, ugh. But
That's awesome.
when I started the match, sorry, the round,
Uh-huh.
I didn't because like they were like, don't touch gloves with her, and because they had seen video of her like kind of taking advantage of that and like going for a punch right after,
Mm.
so I was like, all right, but how do I tell her? So like sometimes people would be like, "No, I'm not gonna do it," but instead I just put my hands behind my back. So like when the round started, I literally walked up to her in the middle of the cage with my hands behind my back until I was ready.
Wow.
And people are
Well,
like, "Oh
that's
my God, are you like Masvidal?" And I'm like, I didn't really pay attention that he did that,
yeah.
but like because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if I was really even for the standoff picture, like I don't know, like I don't I, like yeah, I have hands now, but like I'm like Ricky Bobby, and he's like, "What do I do with my hand?"
Yeah.
So I just like put him behind my back.
Right.
Just
Hey, it
saying,
worked, right? She got the
couldn't
message,
beat
right?
you without it. Yeah, I guess so. But how much do you do that at amateur level? She
Yeah.
had 3 fights already, so she was 1 and 2.
Okay.
So she'd kind of like gone through that whole thing before, and I hadn't at all.
Right.
So
But
everything
then
was super new.
so that's crazy. Okay, so then I saw a little clip online. You mounted her, and then you just like teed off on her, like
Yeah.
ground and pound, right? So
Yeah.
how did you get to that position?
So, the second round started and I was just going off. So my job was to move, strike, and push. Now, that sounds weird because you don't really think about pushing someone in MMA, right? But that's what it was because I needed to get hands on her. So if I pushed and she backed away, cool, perfect range for kicks, which I landed a lot of kicks. And then if she pushes back in, I can either grab clinch or I can go for a takedown. And there's different things. So it's like this action reaction. I need connection. That's the thing. Jiu-jitsu is so much like that. And so, it was okay. I'm moving, moving, moving. Oh God, she has a squeaky toy. Hold on. Ah! Okay. Sorry. So it was like, okay, I'm moving. Hold on.
How many animals do you
I have
have?
4. I'm not going to
Okay.
steal it. Okay. So, no. Okay. So I basically, wanted to move around, but not jumping, right? So I used to think of my old team used to teach me to jump around, like jump, jump, jump. We're moving, we're moving, we're moving, right? We're evading everything. But really, I don't need to. Literally, I just move my feet. I move my feet.
Gotcha.
right? And I can do slide steps. So I can come in. My feet are always under me. That's the Dutch kickboxing style that Anthony teaches, and it's awesome because I'm here. No, I don't have to do anything extravagant. I don't have to like bob and weave. There's no bobbing and weaving, right?
Right.
So moving and then doing my exchange and then pushing away. Oh, my dogs. So now they're fighting. So basically when I went in, I wanted the takedown, but I didn't want to rush it because that was my fear. My fear was walking into a knee, walking into a punch. Like there's specific timing for it. And so I ended up going for a kick while she went for a kick, and then I caught her leg, and then I just took her down from there.
It's just a crazy wild animal house over there, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So basically, I took her down and then I got into mount right away. It was super easy. And then she was trapping my arm. Okay. So she pinched my arm with the glove on here. Okay. So she was defending and then she was holding. So I took this arm, scooped it, went to try to go into S mount to go for the arm. And I realized my arm was still trapped. So I was like, how do I get my arm out? All right. Well, I punch. So I'm like, wailing on her. She lets go to defend with both, right? So then I keep going because one, it's like, yeah, cool, ground and pound. I could have forced something, but I didn't want to force anything. I was expecting to turn, but the ref called it. So that's why I had this whole like jig after, like being so excited. When I got like the call from the ref to stop, I think I was just shocked. Like,
yeah, it was like, well, that's like the whole thing, right? Like strike, set up, submissions, and like you can kind of chain things together like that. But so that wasn't your intention to like ground and pound this person at all.
No, like, I mean, so I had a lot of anxiety going to it, and people say that you should visualize. Well, I was visualizing anyway. So anytime I wake up, I always wake up like too early, and then I sort of go back to sleep. Well, when I woke up, I just couldn't go back to sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I was imagining, because like I know her face. We used to hang out a lot. Like, I know her. I've been in situations with her before, so it's very easy to picture. So when I was picturing all of this happening, I was like, oh my God. And then your chest starts going, and I couldn't sleep, but I was just like visualizing it, and I just wanted to wail on her face. I knew that was going to make me feel good. And she definitely took some damage. She posted a picture after,
So you think it was a good stoppage then?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I was in the moment. It's different. Like I thought I was getting around, but if you see at the end, once I had both my hands up free, I was basically just like slapping her with my hands and pawing at her instead of, So it's funny because I watched the video and I see all the things I did wrong.
Yeah, so that's
artist is like that.
that was my next question. What are your biggest like takeaways, lessons learned from this whole experience?
Okay, so like right after I go back and I'm like, this is amazing. I feel like I just graduated college and everyone wants to congratulate me. I've got family I haven't seen in a while that are there. I've got all my teammates I got to thank. So I'm just like overwhelmed with all the things I need to do. And the matchmaker comes over and she's like, all right, that was awesome. We could put you on the January card. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to do it again? Like, I have to do all of that again? That was the initial thinking. Like, I went through all that and I've got to actually win again. So I was like, just let me think about my win, please. Like, let me just process it. And so for me, it was just like looking at how I behaved. I wouldn't change it just because I knew that's what I needed at the time. And I'm just weird and I can't hide it. My sister thinks my fight name should be Erin, that was weird, Herle. Because basically everything I do, you could just be like, that was weird.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. I could be known for a lot of things, but that works.
Yeah.
Just seeing how I strike and just wanting to be more crisp with it. Feel like someone, I don't know, maybe she was afraid of me. Like I was a lot bigger than her. And of course, right after we do those things where we're like, yeah, I won, but she had to give up a lot of weight. I was bigger than her. So of course we try to downplay our success, we downplay our wins. And I shouldn't be doing that because it was a fight. It was my opportunity. I did what I had to do and I did it well. It didn't matter who I was facing. So that's the only thing that I would change is I think I do want to go to the ground sooner. And I do want to like submit. But that's about it. Like I really enjoyed like how it came out and how I was able to show my striking and show that I've been working on my weaknesses. Like I know like she doesn't do like the ground at all. I mean, maybe she's doing it a little bit, but like It should be your main focus. Even for me, I never had wrestling. I'm a spider guard player. I love playing guard. I think I got 2 takedowns in 10 years of competing. I
Mhm.
never went for takedowns at all. And suddenly now I've got to take someone down. Like
Yeah, right.
they're punching me. So I had to change everything about my jiu-jitsu to be able to do MMA completely.
I feel like a lot of jujitsu turned MMA fighters, like once they get that taste of like the first knockout or like TKO, then it's like all they want to do is just bang, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's cool to hear that you want to get to the ground quicker, even though you had a taste of like what like a technical knockout feels
Yeah.
like.
Well, I mean, I think about my intentions, and my intentions is not. I know I'm cool. I know I'm tough. I don't have to prove anything, right? So like, I've already figured those things out. Some people go into MMA and they've never come from a sport, okay, or
Right.
they've never done anything, or they've never done anything like combat related, or even had in a dance recital. I don't know. They've never
Yeah.
had those 15 minutes of fame, and I've had plenty of those, competing and I've done a fight to win and all these things that have like prepared me for it. I've done
Right.
interviews. I've been the interviewer. Like I've been,
Mm.
so it didn't really bother me. But I mean, I want to just show that I want to represent jujitsu. 2 things. I want to represent jujitsu and I want to represent mental health. So I want to show that a jujitsu girl who just pulls guard all the time can be an MMA fighter and a good one. And I also want to show that people with depression and anxiety and ADHD can succeed on the highest level of something. And it's like I am a soft person. I cried so much in training and I literally was like crying in the back and then ran and had to go do a round with the UFC fighter in the cage and ended up
Mm.
choking her out. Like I will cry and fight you at the same time. I've cried and rolled at the same time. Like I'm just a sensitive human being. I'm very, very soft. So this is my way of showing that like I am actually super tough and I am actually capable of building myself up as a very capable individual and that no one can fuck with. That's what I want to do. Because a lot of people think that, oh, I have depression and I'm such a burden, or oh my god, I have anxiety. And no, like everybody hates me and nobody likes me. Like I have been there. Literally, if I don't get a partner right away in training, I immediately think everyone hates me, and I just want
Mm.
to like it. That's how I feel. So this is how I combat that, and I want to show people that. And so, one thing that it sucks, which I'll bring up, is that like I wanted to have more media for this, and
Mm.
unfortunately, the event hasn't released photos or videos. And I know it's amateur, and who knows what's going on in the background or whatever. Who knows who's getting paid, who's not getting paid? I don't know. But me being from media, having worked with Gracie Mag, Flow Grappling, all that, like I know that you need to post the photos and videos after, or no one gives a shit.
Yeah. Right.
Like, yeah, I had my Instagram live, but that was a horrible video because it's like on my phone. And Christina, my best friend, was filming, and that's nice and all. But there is professional video, and there are commentators, and these
Yeah.
commentators who I know, they spoke about Submit the Stigma, my charity. So it's like that's what I want. I want a video of me fighting with someone talking about the shit that I fight every fucking day outside
Right.
of the cage. That's what means a lot to me. So that's what that's what I was looking forward to. It's not about being tough. It's not about being like, yeah, don't mess with me. Like
Right.
I feel that with my jujitsu because jujitsu teaches us that like, sorry, I don't need to fight you because like I just don't need to. Like I'm gonna walk away. That's the best thing I've learned. So I'm not out here trying to fight people on the street. I'm not trying to be tough. I'm not trying to be badass. I'm just trying to prove to other people and use myself as an example.
That's
That's
awesome.
that's the only thing I want to do. Like honestly, like if I were to get into the UFC, Joe Rogan's still there. Joe Rogan gives me a post-fight interview. First thing I'm gonna say is I loved Fear Factor. But the second thing I'm gonna say is that I want, mental health and all that stuff.
Right.
Like that's my dream,
That's so cool.
you
How
know.
you're doing it yourself to kind of prove to people that, they can do it too. And it doesn't even have to be to the extent of fighting in MMA, right? It could just be empowering women to take control and do something they're afraid of, or just get out there and go for it, right?
It's like if someone said, "Okay, here's Erin, sad little girl. What's the opposite of her?" Probably an MMA fighter, you know? Like I could prove my point in anything. I believe that if I were to train in anything, I would be good at it. I have that capability. I think that's why I picked up striking pretty fast, because I know how to be a white belt. I know how to learn. I know how to take in the information and make it my own. But when it comes to, oh, here's this little girl who never did sports. She was a Girl Scout for 15 years. She cries a lot. She writes poems. She has an English degree where she just wrote stories all day to get out of college. Like, what a sappy individual. Oh, and I love sad songs. So if you ever give me the aux chord, it's all sad songs. And then let's put her in the cage and see if she can beat someone up. Like, that's wild. I love that dichotomy. It's just like opposition entirely, you know?
So what advice would you give to any female out there who is either considering trying jiu-jitsu or trying MMA, or maybe, we've got the new year coming up, trying something new like a boxing class or whatever it is?
I think it's do first, feel later. I had a lot of anxiety, so I found out about jiu-jitsu in 2008. Didn't even go into a gym over a year later. I had acne. I had no self-esteem. I was so nervous. Then I found out that a couple guys from like the music scene that I used to be in were already training. So I went to that gym and I was just like, you know what? I'm doing all of it. So it's like I went in there, I put the gi on, I tried a class, I signed up for like a 2-year contract, and I just did it. And by 3 months in, I was competing. So for me, it's not enough to just get your feet wet. Like, it's like if you're gonna do it, do it. And I had a hard time being like, am I an athlete now? Like, I do physical things now. Does that mean I'm an athlete? I had a really hard time with that label. And then I realized you don't need to have a label. It's not like I do this, so I am this, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. If I want to be this, I have to do this, this, this. No, like, you'll just be that one day. It's
Right.
like you don't say, I want to be a wife, and then you start dating people and you're like, so when are we getting married? Like, that, you're never going to get married unless you go on like some 90-day fiance type thing, like, or married at first sight. Like, you can't have that goal in mind, right? No one
Right.
ever said, like, if you were to set out, starting jiu-jitsu and you're like black belt, well, you got a long way to go, dude. That's a long
Yeah.
way to go. So you got to think about those small things, right? So clap for yourself when you do one thing. I
Take
went
the first step. Yeah.
I never would have gone by myself. That's huge. Pat yourself on the back. Cool. I didn't cry today in training. Cool. Pat myself on the back. Like, it's all of these small changes that lead to the big ones. I don't even remember what it was like to be a white belt, but I know it was traumatizing.
Right.
And I don't remember. And I probably won't remember the beginning days of my MMA, even though it was traumatizing too, because it's just something that's like little by little, and then you just are something. So
Yeah.
my advice is always, if you want to do something, do it without thinking about the end goal or about thinking about how many steps it's going to take. It literally is like one tiny step at a time. And that's
Yeah.
the only way that I've gotten through anything, like, I've gone through some tough shit, and the each day, I'm not gonna say it's gonna get better, because some days are worse than others, but each day allows you a new start, and the
Yeah.
same every day allows you to do something that, like, you didn't think that you could do before. And I think I've just gotten obsessed with that now, just doing things that I didn't expect I would ever do. I do it, like when I travel, I do anything, I eat anything. I just, like, I want to experience things and have, like,
Yeah.
right.
Well, super powerful stuff. That's really cool to hear. So looking forward, what's the plan for 2020? Do you plan on still competing in jiu-jitsu? Is it all in on MMA? What's the plan here?
It's so hard. It's honestly so hard. Like, people are like, so, because, like, the way that I make money is seminars, right? And I have to travel for seminars. I don't have a place that I teach here, and people are like, well, that's so weird. I'm like, it's LA, I'm a dime a
Mm.
dozen. And honestly, there's not, like, I've had some opportunities to teach at places, but it's not enough money. There's so much driving that I would have to do. It would disrupt my training. So luckily, I have support from my mom. I live with her and all these animals, and I have a lot of support from, like, sponsors and the gyms that I train at and whatnot, and it allows me to just focus on training. But I don't know when I'm going to get a fight. And so it's like I have to plan ahead for seminars, but not knowing that, like, oh crap, like, someone's going to say, hey, next month, do you think you could fight this card? Like, I already know I'm not going to be able to do the January card because I'm planning an East Coast tour during that
Mm.
time. So there's this, like, another kind of catch 22 of, like, all right, well, I have to make money, but I have to train. And then I have to
Right.
get ready for a fight, but there's so many things. Like, I went into a lot of debt training this past year. In fact, I spent 4 months living in a teardrop trailer in the parking lot of Black House, which is a half a block from Compton. So I would
Wow.
just train, hang out all day, wash my feet in the sink, and climb into bed in the middle of a parking lot. Like, that was what I did. So I've made a lot of sacrifices to do what I do. But at the same time, it's like it's hard to plan. I jumped into Worlds this past year because it was down the street in Long Beach. I maybe trained in the gi 5 times, but I still did pretty well. I beat someone that beat me twice before, and I did the ADCC trials just to work on my wrestling. So I do want to compete in jiu-jitsu, but it's like, one, it's going to take time off of my MMA training. Two, it's like, what's the point right now? Unless it's a small tournament and I can just like kind of go in and out and be there. Because the thing is, I'm not training jiu-jitsu a lot right now. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going against people like Beatriz Mosquita, like
Yeah.
Bia Basilio, like Louisa. I mean, all these people who are just like so good. And if that's not my area of expertise, then yeah, my MMA training is giving me confidence. And I'm like a bull now. I'm not so like soft and like so defensive, but still, it's like, what's the likelihood, you know? And it takes
Yeah.
so much. There's money you have to pay. You have to pay to sign up. You have to pay to travel to the tournament. You have to pay for all this stuff. And so I do love to compete, and especially that's like I tell myself when I get in like solid ground, like when I go pro and I have a pro fight and then I have some rest, I'll go compete or whatever. I'll go do a fight to win, something like that. Otherwise, it's just waiting. I mean, I don't
Right.
know the next steps. I don't know if I'm going to go to a big camp again. I don't know if I'm going to move. I don't know if I'm going to be teaching a lot more, if I'm going to go to Australia for a seminar tour or anything. I have no fucking clue. And it's so frustrating because right now I'm just like, make money, train, but make some money, you know?
Yeah. But
So,
it's kind of like you were saying, like you can't like you just got to let it happen, right? Take those little steps and it's gonna lead to something. So just stay the course, right? And then
right.
hopefully you can, who knows, man, maybe Joe Rogan will be interviewing you and not me.
Maybe, I hope so. I mean, I don't mind you, but, Joe Rogan in the middle of the octagon would be freaking.
That'd be pretty sweet.
People have asked me like, so what's your path? UFC, right? And I'm like, honestly, I'm not gonna say. I know what my intention and my goal is to get onto a large caliber, organization. I don't know if that means ONE or Bellator or
Yeah.
UFC. I don't know. It's whatever opportunity comes. I'm not trying to be like stuck on one thing and get disappointed along the way.
Right.
Like I think my goal in MMA like is just be in the moment and just be like, I'm just happy to be here. That's it. I never want to have stress from this. I had a lot of stress in jiu-jitsu and being like, oh, I have to prove this, I have to prove that. I have
Right.
a team I'm representing. I've got to do well. I don't want any of that. I literally just want to be happy to be there and enjoy every second. And if I don't, then I stop doing it and I open a school. That's it.
Right on. Well, we are rooting for you. Congratulations on your first win. That was awesome to see, and I really wish you the best of luck. Is there anyone that you want to shout out before we go?
Definitely Dynamics MMA in Santa Monica. They're awesome. They literally took me under their wing. I was like kind of hesitant to join a team after Black House because I kind of went full in on Black House. It just wasn't what I needed at the time and ended up being super toxic. And then, they didn't require anything. They gave me like a month that was like, we're just going to let you take classes and not even really talk to you too much. We're just going to let you do it. We're not trying to get you to like put Dynamics on your back. We're not trying to get you to like drink the Kool-Aid. And they still aren't. They're literally just like, yeah, if you like the system, let's keep doing it. That was awesome.
That's cool. That's cool.
And obviously Hyperfly, which has helped me for years now. They're literally like pretty much my only sponsor that I've had, and I'm really close with them. And I feel like they just understand my mission, and they really want me to do well for me, not for them. And so I can't wait to continue that. And that's pretty much it. Like obviously there's some like little companies and stuff
Well,
that.
where would you want people to go if they wanted to learn more about the Submit the Stigma
So
charity?
submitthestigma.org. I'm looking to redo the site, so forgive me because it's kind of like not very good. But we also have the Instagram that is run by my friend Valerie Brousseau in Canada. So the Facebook and the Instagram are run by her, and we accept stories. So if you go to the Instagram, it's literally just stories about how jiu-jitsu changed people's lives through, their mental health journeys. So check that out. And then if you want to add your story, then email us, and we're going to have a whole compilation. We're going to make a book out of it. And we're also going to be releasing an instructor mental health first aid course. It's kind of like the ref courses that IBJJF does.
Oh, wow.
We gather instructors from different cities into one academy and teach them how to deal with mental health crises and recognizing things like that, like how to handle a mental health crisis on the mat.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats, and thanks so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely.